Hi everyone and welcome to Drive Chris Capredoni, your source for automotive reviews, analysis, maintenance, and restorations. Please subscribe to our channel, watch the entire video, watch our other videos, and of course, click on notifications to be first to learn about new videos. I'm Chris Capredoni, and in this how-to DIY video, I will explain and demonstrate lower control arm and ball joint replacement on a Buick Encore. This procedure will be very similar on other GM vehicles as well as with other manufacturers. Symptoms leading to control arm and ball joint replacement will be a clunky sound coming from the front end as well as a sloppiness in the steering. Bad control arm bearings and or ball joints can also lead to premature tire wear and possibly alignment issues. It could even lead to camber issues. Let's get set up and get going. Hi everyone, so this Buick Encore has been experiencing some front end problems, specifically a sloppy steering feeling and clunkiness coming from the front end. And so what I determined it to be was a ball joint. And so it's specifically the ball joint on the left side, the driver's side. So that needs to be replaced. Now I attempted to try and only replace the ball joint, but the ball joint is attached to the control arm with 3 permanent pressed in rivets. I tried to cut them and drill them out, but it was so much work that it would be easier just to replace the whole control arm assembly, which includes the ball joint. So what I'm going to be doing is setting up the vehicle, lifting it up, securing it, getting the wheel off, and then start the job of removing the existing control arm assembly and then reinstalling this new one. So let's get going. So the vehicle's been properly secured and the wheel removed. Now looking at the control arm, the 2 bolts at the back of the control arm, they're both 18mm bolts. So those have to be removed so that I can remove it from the subframe, or in this case, unibody construction. And the bolt holding the ball joint to the steering knuckle is a 15mm bolt. So I'll need to break that, remove it so that I can remove the ball joint. So I'll get my tools and get going. With the rear 18mm bolt, I have the front head of the bolt secured with this ratchet, and I'm just working it off with an open box wrench slowly, and then I'll just pop it out this way. One other thing I should mention is the 18mm bolt at the front, the nut is a flag nut. So be careful with your fingers there as you start to loosen it up, especially if you use an air wrench on the other side. That could really damage your finger if it's anywhere near it. So don't touch that. Just break the torque on the other side, but don't touch the front side where the flag nut is. Okay, now that all 3 bolts have been removed, the next step is to separate the ball joint from the steering knuckle. And what I have here is a ball joint removal tool. It's the best way in order to create a gap in here so that you can separate it from the knuckle. So I'm going to get started by installing it in the spot that I want and start hammering. other side. It's coming. It became apparent that the control arm needed to be replaced as well. Cracks in the rubber bushing would lead to clunkiness and wobbling as well. All contact points on the control arm were worn out. I pulled out the old control arm and I put in the new one, and all I've done is just put in the bolts loose on both connection points, that one and that one as well. So they're loose because I want to have some play, because the next step will be for me to install the ball joint into the bottom of the knuckle, and I need that play. And then once that's in, then I'll put in the bolt for the ball joint and then start torquing them all down at the same time. So I've lined up the top of the ball joint with the hole in the bottom of the steering knuckle. So in order to get it in all the way, I'm using one of my bottle jacks in order to slowly lift it into place before I can install the bolt, because the bolt has to pass through that area there. That's going to the indented area on the ball joint stem in order to hold it in place permanently. So here I go. So I'm already starting to lift up the suspension, so I know it's gone in all the way. So now it's time for me to reinstall the bolt. Install it in the same manner, with the head of the bolt towards the front of the vehicle. And then the nut on the other side. All three bolts now are hand tight, including the one for the ball joint. So now the next step is for me to get my torque wrench and tighten all three of them to torque spec. And I'll show you how I do that. I'm ready to torque the bolt, the rearmost bolt, the one that's closest to the rear of the vehicle on the control arm. That has to be torqued to 60 foot-pound, and then an additional 60 degrees of rotation after that. So I've got my torque wrench all set up. I'm going to do the best I can. This is far from an ideal torque setting environment, but I'll do my best to try and demonstrate and to hit that 60 pound-feet. There, I've hit it. So after that, I have to do an additional 60 degrees. So since my torque wrench doesn't measure in degrees, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do it the old-fashioned way, where I'm going to get a felt tip marker, mark where a certain spot on the nut, and then mark where 60 degrees would be, and then move the nut into that position in order to hit 60 degrees. So I'll get set up and I'll demonstrate that as well. On that nut, I've measured out what an additional 60 degrees would be. So if you can follow me, I marked in black felt marker this edge here on the nut. That has to rotate up to this spot approximately here. Moving that distance up is approximately 60 degrees. So that's what I'm going to attempt to do. Okay, that's very close to 60 degrees of additional rotation. So I'm satisfied that it's been torqued properly. Now to move on to the next one. The bolt closest to the front of the vehicle has been torqued to 60 foot-pound. And now if you can see very closely, I've marked in black where I need to do an additional 105 degree rotation in order to complete the torque process. So I need to get it from the bottom black mark all the way up to the one that I marked at the top there. So I'm going to attempt to do that right now. It wasn't easy, but with a little ingenuity, I was able to match the two black marks, meaning that I'm pretty much close to 105 degrees of additional rotation to torque it down fully. So now the last step is for me to torque the bolt holding the ball joint in place, and that's 26 foot-pound plus an additional 35 degrees. So I'll get set up and do that. So that's been torqued to, I think it's 26 foot-pound. Now I'm going to mark it so that I can do an additional rotation of 35 degrees. And there we go. It's gone from here up to this mark here. So that's an additional 35 degrees. So now they've all been installed, tightened, and torqued. I need to release the pressure from here and reinstall the wheel. Make sure that you're torquing the lug nuts to 100 foot-pound, and you're done. Thanks for watching this comprehensive DIY tutorial on replacing a vehicle's lower control arm and ball joint. The vehicle featured in this video is a Buick Encore with a front-wheel drive powertrain setup. Symptoms of a bad control arm and/or ball joint is clunkiness, wobbling, and looseness in the suspension and steering. Either through a minor accident or through normal wear and tear, the rubber bushings crack and break down, requiring the control arm assembly to be replaced. Steering precision and suspension crispness will be restored by replacing the control arm and ball joint. In order to complete the replacement correctly, ensure you have a quality torque wrench, open box wrenches, and a ratchet. We hope you found this tutorial informative. Please make certain your vehicle is properly lifted and secured before doing any suspension work to ensure your safety. Please subscribe to our channel, Drive Chris Capredoni, and watch our other informative videos as your source for vehicle reviews, analysis, maintenance, and restorations.